Links to our channel here over at SubScribestar. So toxic positivity ruins another video game, and that phrase just means echo chamber, where they leave pragmatism at the door. Dragon Age, Veilguard, the director's gone, rumored closure of studio, missing sales targets by 85%. Gee, I wonder why. So what happens is you have a group of totally useless SJWs they're planning out this game, and they're sitting around drinking coffee, and they look at successful games, and they think to themselves, well, all we have to do is take this winning formula, but we'll just make it diverse and inclusive for the representation of the indigenous, marginalized, oppressed colors of peoples of Frankfurt School buzzwords. And in their minds, they're thinking, oh, yeah, this is just what was missing. This is the next thing that's needed to just put it right over the edge. It's current year, my guy. We're all super woke, useful idiots. Obviously, everyone else is just as developmentally disabled as they are, so naturally this is going to be in high demand. I mean, it's the Reddit blue sky echo chamber. And as a bonus, this will make the Chads outrage. But the Nazis are a small percentage of the customer base, so they don't matter. The rest of the woke proletariat, our comrades, will love to play as obese, trans, black, lesbians, and whatnot. And the normal people look at all this and say, hey, this looks like woke monkeypox and AIDS. We don't want to play gay, vaguely brown, androgynous characters who are just kind of dumpy looking, because that's gayer than actual gay characters, and most people don't have an issue with gays, but it's just not part of their worldview, and they're not interested in seeing them represented. And to say one is too much, what was the last game? It was like some game that's coming out when there's like a medieval English village, and there's like a black merchant or something, and there's a gay character, and you look at it like, yeah, it's just not needed. It just, most people, if you gave it to a vote, between like male and female or body type 1 or 2, most people would say they're not interested in that. They want straight characters, mostly out of Central Nordic casting, because, let's be honest, they are more attractive, and they don't come with all the woke, they don't come with the baggage, all the woke lectures that black, brown, gay, trans characters, anything on the kind of the Weimar hierarchy oppression ladder that are... blonde characters are just kind of light and positive, and they're very attractive to people. The thing is, the nuns, the kind of the affirmative action characters, they all have something to prove. Maybe I'll shave the side of my head short and have long hair kind of flop over. Oh yeah, you and every other SJW character, and with the nose ring. Where blonde hair, blue eye characters don't have anything to prove. They're just awesome. They look like organic, heroic characters, where the non-blonde characters look like Mary Sue's, because that's what Hollywood and gaming has turned brown characters into, by making these one-dimensional POC. Let's zoom in, or that's just going to get blurry. That is blurry. They're just flat one-dimensional characters where they can't have any depth or nuance, because it's, yikes, my guy, you're historically underrepresented, marginalized, and oppressed, and you're reinforcing negative stereotypes of this brown character. Wait, so, the conclusion of that is you're saying the character has to be Mary Sue. Yes, in their mind, it has to be. All brown characters have to be Mary Sue's. And that takes away any interest in the game, because you can simply look at a color chart and say, well, who's gonna be a Mary Sue and who's not gonna be a Mary Sue, who's gonna be protagonist and antagonist, and it's literally just as simple as looking at eye color. So these game designers are assuming that everyone is going to love this stunning and brave virtue signaling game, which is just like a pre-existing good game, but with the woke elements, because all their friends are woke and play games, but they never get to the next step and consider that their woke friends are not playing woke games, because mostly nobody is. How well did Depression Quest do? The only woke games that would work would be micro-budget games, and even then, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of interest in them. But they think they're going to take a big-budget game and use it to push obese, black, lesbian, trans characters and give people a 3-minute lecture on BLT trans pronouns or something, which was the weirdest part in the game, because it inserted their weird woke view. And you can probably watch that scene on YouTube, which the audience obviously disagrees with, because we're not insane. and then had the character get in this bizarre subservient position to do push-ups because she used the correct pronouns. So the issue is the form of pronouns in a gendered language is male for masculine and such. So when referring to a woman, one would use the feminine. So the language refers to things or concepts. And in this case, the biological binary of male and female, that is our logical worldview. And it's useful because the language is giving you immutable information. The sex of the person, which is objective. We don't care how they identify because that's called plain pretend. And it's weird we're in a position where adults have somehow regressed back to childhood and everyone's taking this nonsense seriously. But the woke are offended by reality, and they created this nonsense about trying to compel the speaker to accept something absurd. It's part of the bigger picture to change people's perception of reality, but we simply disagree. That's a great thing to say on Twitter. Is like, well, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. It drives them wild for some reason. We're going to use the correct language because the other isn't real. It's just Frankfurt School globalism. But it's a contentious issue, and it would be insane to include it in a video game. There'd be no point. You don't get new buyers when you do it. All you do is lose them. Which should be obvious. Get as many customers as possible. Don't alienate them with a lecture on something that 99% of the audience thinks is insane. Imagine the alternative form of that scene where the characters use the feminine form for a female character, and the other character gasps in shock as if it's a big deal and not just, obviously attention-seeking behavior. And she explains that, well, if you misgender somebody, you do 10 push-ups to atone for it. And the other character says, oh, that's great. And then they wait for her to apologize and do push-ups, and she explains, oh, but I didn't misgender them or misspeak. I used the correct pronoun. It's like, where do you... Just kind of an awkward scene that you'd insert into a game. Yeah, she's not going to play these stupid woke games. The left-wing pussies would whine about it. So that's why you just don't put a scene about plain pretend pronouns in a video game, because either way you're going to lose the audience. It's unnecessarily adverse, unnecessarily inflammatory. It doesn't add anything to the game. Most people think the fake pronouns are stupid. Obviously they are. Nobody wants SJW lectures from these game designers. We identify as people who use the biologically based pronouns, and it's like, oh, suddenly our game of pretend is not valid, but theirs is. In their mind, that scene was stunning and brave. Literally like a 3-minute scene of explaining pronouns and then the physical subservient punishment for using the biologically correct ones. And they were going to own the chud Nazis by getting them to not buy the game so it would lose money. It's just as crazy as it sounds, which is why they literally lose money. And then they'll go, oh, no, that wasn't the reason it lost money. It was some other reason over here. It's, what do you call those Walgreens stores? They're like some groceries, some drugstores, some pharmacy stores in San Francisco in the Bay Area. But they've been looted for the past 4 or 5 years by, and so finally they're leaving California. There's like dozens of stores are closing down, and the people in the town are demanding the stores stay open. It's like, I don't think you understand how the stores work. You would have to demand from your mayor and governor that they prosecute people for theft and put them in jail for long prison sentences. And you know what that does? That would actually stop theft. But they don't want to do that. So it's like they want the impossible. They want the store to stay open and also get looted. Where's it going with that? Hold on one sec. Oh, their worldview is just not in accord with reality. And nobody raises a hand and says, hey, wait a minute, our goal is actually to sell the product to these Chad Nazis because the game costs millions of dollars to develop. So where does the money enter the picture if we're alienating the customer base? Oh, don't worry, the fellow SJW bleeding pussies will buy the game. Except so far they haven't bought woke games, and they haven't bought them to the extent that many people are talking about this specific phenomenon of the collapse of an entire woke industry. So why would they buy this game? Which is an interesting question, because by now the overwhelming odds are it's going to lose money. So when are these companies going to stop throwing good money after bad? The fascinating thing is that this very obvious situation is crystal clear, and it's still happening. It's like the definition of insanity. But why did Newsom take taxes to clear brush, maintain hydrants, and maintain the fire suppression system, the trucks, the ambulances, and the reservoirs. Why do the Resnicks control so much water with a Feinstein deal back in the 90s? Aren't people going to be demanding they resign, and it's time to put an end to affirmative action hiring policies that get the worst person for the job and destroy social cohesion? And why are they paying an obese diversity expert $400,000 a year or a fire chief $750,000 a year? How do you take money to prevent fires and then spend it on illegals who sleep in the woods and start those fires? It doesn't make sense, except it does if you assume that they wanted those properties removed and replaced with apartment buildings without parking, so people are forced into the 15-minute Shangri-La cities. And if you think people think Newsom is done in politics, please familiarize yourself with the history of one Bill Clinton, because if you control the media, you're able to control elections. And as for movies and games, they're changing the way the viewer thinks, and it's generational brain rewiring. And if they have to lose money to do it, they don't care. There's this bigger picture. Globalism is their religion. This is not, games and movies are not in a vacuum. It's connected to all of this stuff, including the LA fires. This confuses so many people who don't understand the endless parade of woke games and movies that continually lose money. You can't logically understand a scenario if you're starting with the wrong assumptions, namely that profit is the primary motive. By now you have to accept that clearly it's not. All the memes about eating the bugs and living in the pod and you'll own nothing because the WEF bankers will own everything. Yeah, those memes are mostly correct, but they have to get your brain ready to accept it, and that's what games and movies are perfect for, the pre-programming. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, join us over at SubScribeStar, and I'll see you guys all next episode.